Good evening, our panelists and our speakers. We just went live on our webinar today. I see that our participants are getting into the webinar from the waiting room. So we'll give it some few seconds for everyone to be on today. But we appreciate everyone being with us today. We have Sheikh Ali Alwaleed Al-Thani, CEO of IPA Qatar. We have Ambassador Greta Holtz, US Chargé Affairs to Qatar as well. We have Mr. Fahad Al-Dosari, Qatar Commercial Attaché to the United States. And then we have as well Aymen, Mohib from IPA Qatar, responsible for strategy. You will be hearing from all of the people I'm mentioning while we're getting our participants in. And our private sector representatives, we have Bickett from Chevron, Phillips Chemical, and Josh McLaughlin from Palantir Technologies, General Manager in Qatar. We're already getting a lot of participants in. So I would like to officially welcome everyone here with us today. I'm Mohammed Barakat, Managing Director of the US-Qatar Business Council based here in Washington, D.C. Wish everyone good afternoon and good evening for people in Doha. We're looking forward to hear from all our participants today and as well hear your questions. We will have keynote speakers and then we will have a panel that will discuss the opportunities and doing business in Qatar, and as well success stories from private sector American companies. I would like to start by asking Sheikh Ali Alwaleed Al-Thani to give his keynote remarks. Sheikh Ali is the CEO of Qatar Investment Promotion Agency. He has led this role for a few years now. And IPA is in charge in promoting investment in Qatar as so-called Invest Qatar for foreign companies coming in and foreign investors. He served as a coordinator for economic affairs for Office of the Prime Minister as well, advising on economic affairs in the past, and as well as trade negotiators in many, many years back. So Sheikh Ali, we're glad to have you, and I would like to hear from you your keynote remarks.
Thank you, Mohammed, and appreciate the introduction. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on your time zone. Ambassador Greta Holtz, guests and participants. At the outset, I would like to thank the US-Qatar Business Council for their support in co-hosting today's webinar. I would also like to share my appreciation to all participants and guests who are present here today and the respective representatives of Palantir Technologies and Chevron Phillips for taking the time to join us and share their experience. The strategic relationship between Qatar and the US remains deep and broad, spanning many areas of economic cooperation. We have just recently concluded the US-Qatar Strategic Dialogue, in which this strong relationship was reaffirmed as we continue to seek to expand it, especially in areas of trade and investment. Now, today's topic involves many intersecting trends, significant factors that will be fundamental in shaping the investment landscape for US companies in Qatar. The figure that is most relevant to today's discussion is that the US has over 850 companies operating in Qatar with a total investment of over 110 billion US dollars, making it the country's largest foreign direct investor. One of the reasons why this number is steadily growing is that Qatar's accelerated transition into a knowledge-based economy has served as a conducive environment for leveraging the United States' advanced expertise and technologies in manufacturing, health, agriculture, research, and education, among many other areas. Now, of course, such opportunities and partnerships do not happen in a vacuum, which is where Qatar's strong, resilient economy and its value proposition for investors play a part. The favorable global and international rankings of Qatar reflect the success of the country's ambitious march towards realizing its national vision and our economic diversification agenda. Our Director of Strategy today will be shedding more light on the investment landscape in Qatar and the range of opportunities it presents during his presentation today. I just want to point out here that while these figures and different incentives do not tell the whole story, they are some of the highlights that demonstrate Qatar's business climate to support investors' ambitions and long-term goals. According to a recent survey conducted by the US Chamber of Commerce, US investors have an extremely positive outlook on Qatar's economy and are eager to operate in the market. This is strongly reflected in 90% of surveyed US investors that expect to sustain or expand their investments in Qatar through 2021, with 85% encouraging US companies to invest in the country. And this is where the IPA comes in. Our mandate is to help companies establish and further expand their footprint in Qatar and regionally. The IPA was established a little over a year ago to support inward foreign direct investment and further the country's diversifying economy. The recent launch of the national brand Invest Qatar marks a key milestone of our agency's first anniversary. The Invest Qatar brand leverages an integrated ecosystem of business and licensing platforms, including the Ministry of Economy and Commerce, or Industry and Commerce, Qatar Financial Center, Qatar Free Zones Authority, Qatar Science Technology Park, among others. As you might expect, we can't have a conversation about the future of investments and the economy without talking about the current backdrop of the global pandemic. In the case of Qatar, figures and rankings showcase the country's resilience and strong fiscal position. An example is that Qatar is expected to be one of the few countries globally to deliver a fiscal surplus in 2020. And as the pandemic emerged, the IPA, along with platforms across the state, enacted a series of swift actions to minimize the economic effects on companies and ensure business continuity. As for the current overall situation and the business community in Qatar, the state-controlled four-phase plan to lift COVID-19 restrictions is in progress to reopen the economy, and it has so far been effective. What's important to note here is that despite the challenges, we also believe that the crisis is creating opportunities, which are driven by a shift towards cashless transactions and digitally dominant experiences across many different sectors. This is leading to a stronger focus on innovative sectors that are expected to thrive in the new economy, including fintech, artificial intelligence, healthcare, education, logistics, sports, just to name a few. There are several national projects and initiatives in motion that set the pace for a digital future and further develop an ideal business environment. The first I'd like to mention is the Smart Cities project, both the Greenfield project in Lusail and the other brownfield development in Sheikh. There's Qatar's National Artificial Intelligence Strategy and the nationwide cloud infrastructure to support digital communication. There's Qatar Central Bank fintech strategy to accelerate the adoption of cashless transactions. Also, the centerpiece in our investment agenda is the Public-Private Partnership Law. This law was recently enacted and it helps create a more competitive business context, add a comparative advantage to new projects through private sector participation. This is expected to be a significant factor for economic growth in the pandemic post-recovery phase. The new law also accounts for various types of asset classes, with the priority sectors being education, transportation, ITC, energy, healthcare, and tourism. We are already starting to see the benefits of this initiative with the recent announcement of a public-private partnership in the education sector that is currently estimated at a value of over $1 billion. There is as well a pipeline of around an estimated $85 billion worth of projects that are expected to be awarded under the new system. In conclusion, I'd like to echo Secretary Roth's statements during the recent US-Qatar strategic dialogue, where he expressed grand optimism that the trade relationship would continue to grow and encouraged US investors to explore doing business in Qatar. The continued success of our investors and partners remain our top priority, and together with our partners, licensing platforms, we are ready to welcome new businesses to Qatar and help expand existing projects. I'm excited to be here today, and I'm looking forward to your participation in this conversation. Thank you very much.
Sheikh Ali, thank you so much for your keynote remarks. Very important points that has been mentioned, and we'll be talking as well more about this today. I'm glad to introduce our second keynote speaker, Ambassador Greta Holtz, the US Chargé of Affairs in Qatar. Ambassador Holtz is a senior career US diplomat with an extensive experience in the region. She assumed her duties as the Chargé of Affairs June 2020 of this year. In her career, she has previously served as senior advisor in the Bureau of South and Central Asian Affairs. And as well, she served as the US ambassador to the Sultanate of Oman from 2012 to 2015. And previously in many positions around the region in the Middle East and many other regions around the world. Ambassador Holtz, I'm glad to introduce you.
Thank you very much. Very kind introduction. I'd like to say to His Excellency Sheikh Ali Alwaleed Al-Thani and those here in Doha with us, good evening. To Ambassador Ann Patterson at the US-Qatar Business Council and all of our counterparts in the US, good afternoon or good morning. I want to thank the USQBC for organizing this important and timely gathering, and to all our participants for joining us today or this evening. It is my great pleasure to address this group today. I've had the honor of meeting with many of you online this evening, and I look forward to meeting with more of you in the days and weeks ahead. I've been in Doha for about 3.5 months, and even in the midst of COVID-19, I've been very impressed by the pace at which our trade and investment relationship moves and continues to grow. In particular, one aspect that has struck me in my first 100 days here in Doha is the truly two-way strength of the investment relationship between Qatar and the United States, grounded in the investments in both directions. Qatar Petroleum and the Qatar Investment Authority have deep investments in the United States energy and real estate sectors, and even more has been pledged for US infrastructure in the coming years. As it is, Qatar's investments support hundreds, if not thousands, of high-salary US jobs, and this figure continues to grow. Qatar has been an instrumental player in the annual Select USA Summit, which is the marquee US government event to attract foreign direct investment. In turn, the US has invested heavily in Qatar as well. US investments in the oil and gas sector several decades ago laid the foundation for what continues to be a thriving partnership. More recently, US partnerships and ongoing investments in the ICT sector contribute to Qatar's Vision 2030 goals, marking the next generation of partnership. Looking forward, and consistent with Vision 2030, US businesses are eager to identify more areas for partnership via the Public-Private Partnership Law, which was signed by His Highness the Emir on May 31st. Industry's critical role in our security and defense partnerships is yet another direct testament to our commitment to Qatar, and such examples exist in many more sectors. In short, the US has tangibly demonstrated that we are committed to Qatar as a lasting and trusted partner, which is directly reflected in our investments in Qatar. It is clear that both the US and Qatar are stronger due to the mutually beneficial nature of our trade and investment relationship. This was on full display at the 3rd annual US-Qatar Strategic Dialogue on September 14th and 15th, when our nation's foreign affairs, commerce, and finance ministers were all together in Washington. At the opening ceremony, Secretary Mnuchin and Minister El-Imadi signed an MOU to host a Qatar investment forum, which I understand will take place in the United States in the first quarter of 2021. From the US government, both in Doha and in the United States, we look forward to teaming up on this forum with the Ministry of Finance, with Qatar Investment Authority, with the IPA Qatar, and the Qatar Free Zone Authority to highlight the two-way nature of our investment relationship through this forum. Just last week, I visited the impressive brand new facility that the Qatar Free Zone Authority is developing at Ras Boufantas. We are in talks with the Free Zone to explore two-way investment and to foster mutually beneficial economic development by engaging industry ecosystem experts and spreading the word of what Qatar Free Zone has to offer US companies. Lastly, we look forward to working with QIA on its investment roadshow throughout the US in 2021. With that, I will conclude my remarks to allow our two US industry investors in Qatar who will speak tonight, Palantir and Chevron Phillips Chemical Company, to talk about the real-world examples of how they've successfully launched here in Qatar. Meanwhile, please continue to reach out to me and to my commercial team in Doha, led by Megan Shilden, as all of you explore new options in Qatar. We stand ready to support you. Thank you very much.
Ambassador Holtz, thank you so much for your remarks in highlighting the relationship between the US and Qatar on the business and economy. Looking forward for the activities that you mentioned in your keynote remarks. I would like to as well, you have Mr. Fahad Al-Dosari from the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. He is the commercial attaché to the United States based in Washington, D.C., and as well the U.S. representative for the Investment Promotion Agency of Qatar. Fahad.
Thank you, Mohammed. Ambassador, friends and colleagues, first I would like to thank the US-Qatar Business Council for organizing this event, and thank each of you for joining us today during what have been challenging times for all of us during this pandemic. Today, I'm pleased that we have a moment to pause from our focus on current challenges to look toward a brighter future. And the future of the Qatar-United States economic relationship is without question bright. To be sure, our economic ties are already strong. In 2019, we exchanged more than $8 billion in goods. As it has been for years, the United States remained Qatar's leading source of goods, accounting for 19% of our total imports. US companies are integral partners throughout Qatar's economy. With more than 850 US firms operating in Qatar in various capacities, our bilateral investment relationship supports tens of thousands of jobs in each of our economies. This current strength only tells part of the story. Today, Qatar's economy is rapidly expanding and diversifying. In our industrial sector alone, the number of factories operating in Qatar increased to 914 in 2019, up 19% compared to 2017. As all of you know, the FIFA World Cup is coming to Qatar in 2022, generating hundreds of billions of dollars of development in a range of sectors, from transportation to infrastructure to tourism. This work related to the World Cup represents just a fraction of the development underway. With its world-class infrastructure, strong international connections, and tremendous intellectual capital, Qatar is rapidly developing into a global business hub. This growth offers enormous opportunities to US firms. Qatar recognizes that US companies have been essential partners in Qatar's development for decades and welcomes US emerging sectors. to ensure that our relationship remains strong for decades to come. Qatar's Investment Promotion Agency is at the center of realizing this enormous potential. There are a range of exceptional incentives available to US firms in Qatar, such as 100% foreign ownership, free zones tailored to their needs, and 20-year tax holidays. Qatar and the Investment Promotion Agency specifically offers US investors a true partner committed to building and maintaining an optimal business environment, with whom US companies can be confident that they will have every opportunity to succeed. I'm honored to cooperate with the Investment Promotion Agency as Qatar's commercial attaché to the United States. I would welcome the chance to work with each company participating here today to discuss how to capture the opportunity that awaits you in Qatar. With that, I would like to allow today's important conversation to proceed. Thank you for your time and attention, and I look forward for our discussion.
Thank you, Fahad. Appreciate your remarks. I understand we have a video that you would like to share with our participants today. So they will play it now. Here we go. Thank you.
Leader in LNG exports, Qatar. The nation of Qatar has transformed over the past decade and continues to grow. Already a world leader in LNG exports, Qatar's National Vision 2030 lays out a plan for rapid economic diversification. Efforts underway include a major expansion of the country's world-class Mad International Airport, the construction of long-distance rail and subway system, the world's largest greenfield seaport development, significant expansion of the nation's already region-leading healthcare system, the creation of a brand new state-of-the-art smart city. Qatar's investments also include stadiums and facilities to host the 2022, the world's largest sporting event. Qatar welcomes partners in this national transformation, among the safest and most stable nations in the world. With a highly diverse and young population and situated at the center of global commerce, Qatar is open to foreign investors. Major opportunities exist for foreign companies across the economy, including in agriculture, education, finance, health and life sciences, hospitality and tourism, infrastructure development, information technology, logistics and distribution, and sports. To learn more about doing business and investing in Qatar, please visit the Qatar Embassy website at www.washington.embassy.qa.
Thank you, Fahad. What an amazing video that highlights most of the expansions and the opportunities in the state of Qatar. We have witnessed many of these opportunities taking place, and we're happy to see more of this in the next few years as well for the World Cup and beyond the World Cup. Thank you for your remarks and appreciate being with us. We always look forward to work with you here in Washington, D.C. and in the United States, working with the Ministry of Commerce, Investment Promotion Agency, and as well with the Embassy of Qatar in here. I would like to start going towards our panel today. We have a fantastic panel. Our guests today will offer a great perspective from an American perspective for companies that invested in Qatar, operated in Qatar, and utilized the opportunities in Qatar, and as well from the head of strategy, director of strategy at the Investment Promotion Agency Qatar on the new developments and what the Qatari economy is gearing to do. Just a quick housekeeping for our audience today. If you would like to have questions, there is the Q&A section in the webinar down in your screen. You can always submit your questions there, and we will be happy to get to as many questions as we can given our time today. So these are the main places to submit the questions today. Just before I go into the panel, I know we introduced them at the beginning, but I would like to do it again for people who joined us after we kicked off the event. We have Aymen Mohib, the Director of Strategy for Investment Promotion Agency, Qatar. We as well have Bickett, the Vice President for Chevron Phillips Chemical, Qatar, and as well Deputy CEO for Qatar Chemical Company, QChem. And as well, we have the Mr. Josh McLaughlin, the General Manager for Qatar Palantir Technologies, who as well join us from Qatar today. So in this panel, I'm the only one from DC at this moment in here. Before I go towards the, to hear from you, Aymen, we have heard from Sheikh Ali, we have heard from Ambassador Greta today, and as well from Fahad Al-Dosari and the video that we just witnessed. When we here at the US-Qatar Business Council has been observing and as well engaged in this relationship, I would say since 1996, since this council was founded. In these developments, I always say it in many events, it always enhanced, it's always developing with the United States. It started with energy, now it's include all sectors in many levels. And we always feel that there is more to come. So I want to start with you. If you want to say, take a few minutes in going over the plans and IPAQ and if any presentations that you want to provide us today.
Sure, happy to do so. Thank you, Mohammed. And I'll show you indeed like a presentation about Qatar's value proposition that will synthesize some of the information that that our keynote speakers and that Fahad mentioned in their introduction.
Please.
So I'll just project the presentation. All right, so good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's my great pleasure to speak with you today. I'm Aymen Mohib, I'm the Director of Strategy and Incentives here at the IPA Qatar. And over the next 10 minutes, I'm going to share with you Qatar's value proposition. And I hope that this will be an informative introduction to the wealth of opportunity that Qatar has to offer to American investors and how the IPA Qatar can help you realize success. So in his keynote remarks, Sheikh Ali provided an overview of why now great time for American companies to consider the range of business opportunities that can be found in Qatar. So in this presentation, what I'll do, I'll introduce the IPA and Qatar's value proposition. I'll reflect also on the deepening relations and flourishing trade between our two countries and how this relationship is creating a supportive environment for investment. I'll highlight also some of the key investment opportunities that you have seen in the video and that have been mentioned and that exist for US companies. And I'll finish by outlining how the IPA Qatar can support your projects and turn your ideas or plans into reality. So let me introduce the IPA Qatar. As mentioned, our agency is celebrating its first year anniversary, and we are doing so by launching the Invest Qatar brand, which is the national brand that showcases Qatar as an exceptional investment destination. So besides promotion, we also play a very active coordination and facilitation role. We basically smooth the way for investors to access opportunities in Qatar by bringing together the full investment ecosystem under one roof. This allows us to connect you with the right people and organizations in Qatar that ultimately will partner with you throughout your investment and business journey. So why Qatar? In short, Qatar is a country that is ready and that is well set up for your long-term success. So if we look at the key factors that make Qatar so attractive, first, we pride ourselves as a strong and resilient economy with a significant government push and support for diversification. We have a clear vision, ambitious goals, and all of this has allowed us to maintain a high and steady GDP growth rate and sustain a prosperous society. Second, Qatar provides a strong and business-friendly environment, and this has been supported by a rigorous reform agenda. And in a moment, in the next slide, I'll touch on some of the specific support, initiative, and incentives that have been introduced recently and over the past couple of years. In addition to doing business with ease, the country also offered unparalleled market access and connectivity, both physical and digital. And we have strong connections to markets in Africa, in Asia, and we have investment protection ties with many countries around the world, including the EU and China. So there is so much to say about connectivity. You saw in the video, we mentioned Qatar Airways, which is the world's largest cargo fleet. We have indeed multi-billion-dollar worth of investment in airports, ports, and metro expansion projects. I think we also, like you also heard about the state-of-the-art free zones that Ambassador had the chance to visit recently. And also the fact that Qatar is home to the first commercial 5G network to launch in the world. Last but not least, we enjoy a vibrant ecosystem for knowledge and innovation, and Qatar is a leader in higher education and research. It continues to be a magnet for talents. We host more than 15 renowned international universities with the likes of Georgetown universities, Northwestern, Texas A&M, Carnegie Mellon, and Cornell. Qatar has a rich and outward-looking culture. We are passionate about sports, and we regularly host major global events, so including the upcoming 2022 FIFA World Cup. So here in Qatar, you will find that the hospitality, the art scene, the quality of life, the safety are all second to none. So I wanted to take a moment to highlight some specific reforms and policies that the government has undertaken to encourage economic freedom. So on these slides, we have highlighted just some of the bold support that you can expect, from fiscal incentives to stability of the regulatory regime and support for expatriate labor. So it's really a full spectrum of incentives that assist investors throughout the journey, from consideration to operation and expansion. So from low corporate tax, no personal income tax, up to 100% foreign ownership, to full profit repatriation, tax holidays, access to funding and equity participation. So in short, one of the most stable and competitive pro-business regimes awaits you here in Qatar. So don't just take our word for it. These are just some of the leading American companies that have developed their presence in Qatar. And from instantly recognizable global brands to SMEs, we want to welcome ambitious and innovative investors of all shapes and sizes. And I'm delighted that we'll be hearing indeed more from some of American companies that have already made Qatar their home after this presentation. The good news is that as American companies, you are in a primary position to make the most of the opportunities that Qatar has to offer. Our keynote speakers have already offered insightful perspectives on our relations, so I will not expand too much on that, but I think it's worth mentioning that the Trade and Investment Framework Agreement has established the ground for trade and resolving disputes, which give businesses confidence on the stability of cross-border trade. And we mentioned the annual strategic dialogues that took place a couple of weeks ago and that further strengthened this relation. We hope indeed to launch next year an investment forum and to hold the Qatar-US Business Roadshow, where we aim to bring our respective business communities together to establish mutual investment. So do keep an eye out for further updates, and I'll be delighted to see you join us. So this unique relationship between the US and Qatar wouldn't be possible without strong and established partnerships. And the US-Qatar Business Council, our events partner today, and the US Chamber of Commerce's Qatar Business Program provide an incredible support network for American businesses. And cultural networks also need to be mentioned, and they're strong, with a really exciting announcement from the US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo just last month that 2021 would be the US-Qatar Year of Culture. So I think you heard about like those key statistics, and those statistics demonstrate the thriving state of the US-Qatar economic relation. So last year, the trade between our two countries amounted to over $9 billion, which is a huge increase of almost or over 100% in just 2 years. And now indeed the business community numbers over 850 companies, and it's growing every day. Again, you heard about some of the statistics that were from the survey that was conducted by the US Chamber of Commerce, and all of them like show like strong confidence from existing companies, and also the one in the center is one of my favorites. 85% of US companies that have already chosen Qatar would encourage other US companies like you to join them and invest in Qatar. I'm pleased to say that there is a plethora and there is no shortage whatsoever of opportunities for you to invest in Qatar across a wide range of growth sectors. So here we just captured a very few one, but the infrastructure is one of them, with construction and logistics projects worth more than $200 billion in the pipeline. In advanced manufacturing, since 2015, we've had like more than 380 new industrial facilities. In the financial services, we have significant opportunity in fintech, in asset management, insurance and reinsurance. As a result of the whole push for diversification, there has been a rapid expansion of professional services, and we expect that to keep going. Tech is one of the fastest growing sector, thanks to the strong internet penetration and connectivity, and our place as one of the leading economy for ICT adoption. We mentioned entertainment and sports, which is an exciting growth sector as we move closer to hosting the 2022 World Cup. And we have more than $6 billion entertainment industry that is set for further growth with the launch of the first sports accelerator in the region. And there is exponential growth in the tourism with more than $200 billion investment program in tourism and hospitality, and reforms that will make Qatar one of the most accessible tourist destination in the Middle East. So as an example, we offer visa-free entry for more than 80 countries. And we also offer a 96-hour layover visa to spark short-term. And we project the number of tourist arrivals to reach 6 million a year by 2023. We have a number of national programs that also open significant opportunities for the private sector in general, and for foreign investors in particular. So I don't have time, unfortunately, to go in detail on each of them, but it's worth highlighting the PPP law indeed that was enacted earlier this year, and that allows private companies to participate across all set of asset classes in PPP, from transportation to social, environment, and renewable energy. The second one is the TASMO program, which is a national flagship initiative that aims at transforming Qatar into a sustainable country with more than $2 billion that will finance both the public and the private sectors to digitize key areas such as transportation, logistics, healthcare, environment, and sports. So I hope that this has been an informative overview. This is a really exciting time to invest in Qatar, and we want to welcome you to come and be part of it. And so I wanted to finish on how we can help you. So the IPA Qatar, through the Invest Qatar brand, takes a tailored and dedicated approach to support investors to match your specific needs. So please, if you'd like to know more about Qatar and the investment opportunities we have highlighted today, do not hesitate to get in touch. We are ready to welcome you to Qatar. Thank you very much for your attention today, and we greatly appreciate your interest. And I'm really looking forward now to hearing from some of the US companies that have already chosen Qatar. Thank you.
Thank you, Aymen. What a great presentation that highlights many of the opportunities and what Qatar have done to advance the business. I want to go to our American companies to hear some of their success stories in here before we go after that to a quick moderated session. Uh, I would like to ask Mr. J. Bickett from Chevron Phillips Chemical to give us some of his thoughts and ideas on why Qatar, what is Chevron Phillips Chemical experience in Qatar, and how did this develop to a full operations as well in Doha.
Thank you for that, Ahmed. And want to send my thank you and appreciation to IPAQ as well as the US-Qatar Business Council to share our experiences and the positive environment here in doing business in the state of Qatar. So really the intent I want to share with you before we get into some of the details around learnings is the insights and our background here. So Chevron Phillips has been fortunate to be engaged in Qatar for a little over 20 years. Dating back to 1998, Chevron Phillips Chemical had the opportunity to partner with Qatar Petroleum to create a world-class petrochemical company known as Qatar Chemical Company, or QChem. Through that strong performance and that relationship, we had another opportunity to reinvest a few years later. And again, Chevron Phillips invested in two other ventures, the Resliency Olefins Company, as well as QChem 2. And even most recently, in the press summer of last year, in June 2019, Chevron Phillips and QP were able to come together to sign an agreement to develop a new petrochemical complex in Resliency Industrial City. And everything I've talked about so far is about our investment here in Qatar, but I just want to touch on something from the fact that the relationship is so strong that it goes both ways. QP as well signed last year an agreement with Chevron Phillips to invest in the US Gulf Coast. I think what that illustrates is Chevron Phillips has chosen to invest billions of dollars in multiple projects through the years because of the positive business environment and the people here in the state of Qatar. Really, as an American company, we find it attractive. And I have to tell the audience here, I hadn't seen Aymen's presentation, and he goes into much better detail. I wanted to take the opportunity, we focus and work clearly in the energy sector. So I had to think about some things that maybe transcended more than just the energy sector of why these American companies should consider. And I would tell you that they line up very well, and I won't be able to go into as much eloquent detail, but I'll share with you my observations and what we believe has been the foundation for our success and what we believe is a great reason to do business here. First off, we talk about safety and security, right? I mean, not only about the people and the assets, but we talk about the laws and regulations which govern the way we do business. They're strong, they're enforced, they're clear, and they're visible. I think that gives foreign investors a lot of confidence as it relates to investing here in the country. And when there are new policies, you can hear through the presentations and this conversation today, have found that these policies are encouraging of economic development and diversity as an industry. Also, you know, one of the things when you look at investing, are you going to have the basics, the building blocks available to you? And clearly, Qatar has a strong infrastructure. And I tell you, you look around the number of cranes and everything else, it's getting stronger day by day. You know, you heard about the ports, Deepwater Port, International Airport, power, water, all the things that you would need to create a sound business here in the state of Qatar. I think that also goes back to the geographic positioning. And I think this will be important later for what I want to share on a challenge, but you can access the world so easily from where we sit here today in the state of Qatar, and obviously positioned well in terms of the time zone. Just like the call here today, you have you can reach east, you can reach west, north, and south relatively easily. And then what it comes down to is bringing people together to create a good company. The local talent pool is of the highest quality that I've been able to meet. And as you hear, if you're unable to find even the talent, we have found that you can access the international markets very easily, and they're all attracted to come live and work here in the state of Qatar. So I think all that brings together a good basis for what's going on here in the state of Qatar. Now, it was mentioned earlier in the video, and I wasn't quite as familiar until I came to live and work here in the state of Qatar, but I would encourage anyone not familiar to read about the Qatar National Vision 2030. It establishes the framework that exists and all the pillars that I see personally, both private, public, as well as government organizations working together to achieve these goals. And it's an amazing feat. On an individual level, as a company and maybe as a person, I think the biggest thing that I would say that have found to contribute to our success here in the state of Qatar is being present. And by being present, you know, in today's world of COVID, sometimes it's shifted a little bit. You know, obviously in-face, person to person, but just like this session we have today, I would say network, share your learnings. People we have found have been very collaborative and helpful in terms of creating those opportunities. Everybody's hungry in terms of the opportunities and what the future may bring in terms of brightness. I would also counsel you to be consistent and constant in terms of your efforts. Nothing that's great comes easily. And I think there's a lot of great things to come. So I would encourage you to continue to work through this. Opportunity exists, and I would tell you the people I've found have been collaborative in all that. And this all doesn't come without certain challenges. We heard earlier about the COVID case, but I think one of the things that I wanted to point to was the 2017 blockade. I think for us, we had several concerns about materials in, materials out, transports, and all the logistics. And I can tell you, from our perspective, the response was amazing. The ability for everybody to pull together and the agility of both public, private, and governmental sectors to come together illustrate to me how strong Qatar is as a country, how resilient they are. And I think ultimately, I believe they're stronger today through all of that. Overall, you know, from our experiences in the years that we've had here, I hope I shared a little bit of why I think investment here is a positive thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. It was interesting to hear a lot of these thoughts, and I have so many thoughts and questions that might, if time allows, I will be talking about it. But first, I want to go to Josh McLaughlin from Palantir Technologies, the general manager based in Doha, to hear your experience. I know Palantir is newer than Chevron, Phillips, and the Qatari market, so that's a different experience. Maybe Jay have witnessed maybe 20 years ago and then today, or the company itself did. Josh, what's your thoughts? Please.
Yeah, well, I wish this would have existed when we were getting ready to stand up, or we would have done one of these events when we were getting ready to stand up the firm. So we've been in Doha. Well, first, quick intro. Thank you, Sheikh Ali, Madam Ambassador, Mohammed, QBC, IPAC. It's a pleasure. So Josh McLaughlin, I'm the GM. I'm the founding GM, first employee in the country back in late 2016. We didn't actually incorporate until early 2018 as we ran some of our initial work through the London office, which is our global headquarters, which is actually where I am today. I will be back in Doha hopefully in 3 or 4 days. So looking forward to getting back and figuring out what's in my refrigerator in my apartment. So Palantir 2018, we actually established our entity through the QFC. It was a really easy process. They were really helpful with us to get established through. We contracted with a local law firm to help us with some of the initial administrative processes. But the QFC has been great. I'm in regular contact with the QFC, I would say probably 2 or 3 days a week. So our work in Qatar, we have been partnered with the Qatari government on a large-scale, multi-year digital transformation initiative that I think we're contracted for an additional couple of years on. And since 2018, we've also conducted a number of additional pilots in the government and commercial sectors. So young, but moving quickly, I would say, across. And our technology is sector agnostic, which I think plays really well in a state like Qatar, where there's a lot of interoperability, but you know, growing sectors kind of outside of the traditional energy and well, I mean, even aviation. So the two things that I wanted to hit on were business climate and then my investment thesis for continuing work in Qatar. And I mean, to be completely candid, this is the pitch that I gave to the directors of the company when we were first looking at going into country. So as I said, and as has been mentioned here, the free trade zones are a tremendous asset. They're really easy to work with, very customer friendly, and very engaged. For us, especially, this appealing thing for the QFC was that it's governed under UK law. So it was something that our lawyers were very comfortable with. And the other thing that's been truly very helpful is the embassy, and particularly the commercial team at the embassy have been a tremendous asset. Both Megan and the current team, and then going back to when we were initially getting established. So the thing that really, I think, drew us into Qatar in the first place was partially this QNV 2030, you know, and the aspiration and the vision for the future. You know, we, being a tech startup until last week when we had our DPO, was a you know, very much in line with our kind of thinking. You know, small company against kind of the big established firms of the world. And in, you know, in a lot of ways, this is a very similar process. So we got a little bit of a taste of the pre-GCC crisis, the pre-blockade time, and then obviously been operating operating since. My first trip to Qatar was actually back in 2005 in a past life when I didn't wear a beard and wore a uniform. But you know, to see the growth and the changes from 2005, but also just from November of 16, my first trip into Doha with the company was, it's been tremendous. But the thing that I've seen post blockade is really this like resolution and this realization of self-reliance that I think, you know, really has, is again, very much in line with our kind of core ethos as a company. And, you know, the Qatari populace is small, and it's a very, I would say, an aspirational society with really fundamental roots as an innovative culture. So for us, the state and the people have been tremendous partners, and we are very much looking forward to our future of growing in country. So in some ways, I think we found Qatar to be more, even to an extent, well, to a large extent, more beneficial working there than in the US and the EU, in that it's a smaller market, but the requirements of a smaller market and the needs of a smaller population base, I think, presage a lot of what we're going to be seeing as kind of the like tech 3.0 technology. So this includes robotic process automation, computer vision, artificial intelligence, augmented reality. Those are things that the state needs today due to the low population set or low population base that the rest of the world is kind of starting to get around to, but it's almost a nice to have right now instead of a have to have. And, you know, Qatar has acknowledged both in the commercial and public sector that these are things that they're very keen on moving forward. They want to be the you know, global leaders in these technologies, and they have the need for it. So the need drives innovation. So on that note, we did a pilot late last year, and during this pilot period, it was about a 2-month pilot project. We were exposed to a lot of the research institutions that were running through CMU, Hamad bin Khalifa University. We went out to QSTP and saw the kind of the startup ecosystem that they've established at QSTP. And, shame on me for not knowing this existed, but it was eye-opening to see some of the research that was coming out of these entities. And we are really looking forward to strengthening our ties into this, kind of startup ecosystem and sharing our lessons as being a longtime private, tech startup, and now, just transitioning over to be a publicly listed organization. So on that note, I have about 2 more minutes here, and then I'll turn it back over. Our investment thesis as a firm, we are a 2-product company. It is a software as a service, so we are SaaS platforms. Our traditional our model for investment and I would say to an extent R&D is much different than these more non-SaaS platform companies. So our focus on development, research and development, is much more on use cases and sectors that we aren't previously working in. And in this case, the state of Qatar and its people, both expats and citizens, have been perfect partners because they're thinking over the horizon. They're thinking about what tomorrow's technology looks like. And these are the things that we want to be building our technology to support and enable. So it's been great. I think long-term, we're really looking forward to strengthening the ties between Silicon Valley and Doha. And serving as that conduit for ideas back and forth. And part of that is through partnership, and part of it is through, embedding engineers from Europe and the US, but also bringing on local talent and moving them around, back to our other offices as well. So we think of it as kind of a push-pull relationship in that regard. And then, looking forward, I personally love this vision, and particularly this kind of forward-looking presence focused heavily on sports. So I think beyond the World Cup, obviously the bid for the Olympics coming out, and then you have the Asian Games that happen every couple of years. There's a ton of opportunities that I think Qatar is a great place to be invested, for 10, 20 years and beyond. So I look forward to being the guy, to being Jay in 20 years, talking about how old we are as a firm. And with that, I will turn it back over.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you. Very interesting, the differentiation. Although Jay mentioned that, or the Chevron, Phillips chemical, working in the chemical, the energy, and now seeing this kind of big transition where today we're talking about artificial intelligence, augmented reality, software as a service. A lot of things has advanced. I know we might go over a little bit over our time today, but we do want to go into some questions and some things that I actually want to as well ask you to feel it. I want to start with Aymen. Aymen, you mentioned during your presentation few key points, and one point that always come in mind when I hear a lot of these thoughts on what's developing in Qatar is how much these national projects, the big projects, actually play a major role in driving foreign direct investments into the state of Qatar.
Thanks for the question, which is a great one. I think if I just first step back and look at the macro picture, the world is experiencing a shift in consumer and corporate behavior toward a more digitally dominant experience. And I think just stress that digitization applies across all verticals, and this result into a disruptive innovation across all sectors with the fintech, with the adoption of artificial intelligence. And so to answer your question, those national programs and project initiatives that are in motion, they are very appealing for foreign investors because they provide like some very clear directions. They're very well designed, very well structured. I think the objectives that they aim to achieve like gives a lot of comfort to the companies. So I mentioned earlier like the PPP, which like is a long-term partnership that provides a lot of visibility over the long term. We mentioned the TASMO program with like user cases that are like predefined. We also like highlighted the smart cities. Those are like all long-term projects. There's an ambitious artificial intelligence strategy in place. Qatar aims to develop a fintech hub. There's a strong push on Industry 4.0. Several R&D initiatives indeed through the QSTP and the Qatar Foundation, and with like strong focus as well on business innovation. We have also like a few in-country value chain, in-country value program, whereby like the touting from the QP that encourage the localization of companies, which in return they may enjoy like some very strong benefits, like a guaranteed offtake volume. And we also have a number of like sectors and clusters development. So again, those programs and their benefits are very appealing for foreign companies in general.
Thank you, Aymen. I mean, and again, fascinating to see how these things have developed. You mentioned the PPP law. A lot of people have been talking about the PPP law. Ambassador mentioned it, Sheikh Ali, the strategic dialogue, and in many presentations. Can you give us a little bit more about the PPP law? What is the guidelines? I heard, I personally heard that there will be kind of a guide, an investment guide for opportunities that will be put out for private sector to engage on it. And on the other side, the PPP law talked about as well the long term. How long can these projects be managed? As in the US, we build, operate, and then later transfer. Is that what it is? Can you give us a little bit more on this law?
Yeah, the short answer is that yes, it is. I've had the chance myself to have a background in investment banking and in PPP, and whatever like framework that companies are used to have in established like markets, you will find a similar like framework that abides by best practices. So the law was enacted earlier this year on May 31st of 2020. And it defines all the partnership models that include all the standard, indeed, like BOT, BOOT, BTO schemes that companies like are familiar with, and of course, like they vary across the different like type of asset class, and they're like very like tailored for each type of asset class. And I mentioned that it ranges across all the sectors, from transportation to education, with like currently like a pipeline of schools. But also like environment with like some in the pipeline we have like some waste water like treatment project, and also renewable energy. So it's really like the full range. So it's very promising. We have the framework that gives a lot of comfort to companies and enter into like those long-term concession. But the way I think that you should look at the PPP, it's one of the many initiatives and reforms. So it complements all the other like bits that we mentioned earlier around immigration, about labor reforms, about FDI ownership, real estate ownership. So it further contributes to enhancing the investment landscape in Qatar. It directly links to the vision that we mentioned earlier today, and the vision itself, when it was set up, like estimated more than 100 billion worth of dollar of planned project, and we now like already have like more than $1 billion of PPP projects that are in the pipeline, and those includes the schools, roads, parkings, health centers, warehousing and logistics, and the sewage and water treatment plant that I mentioned earlier today.
Thank you, Aymen. I mean, that gives a more of flavor of the idea of the law and the projects that's coming into this. Now, I want to use the same that part and ask maybe Jay and Josh. As U.S. companies, Chevron, Phillips, Chemical has been in the market for a very, very long time in Qatar, usually 20 years. My understanding, even a lot of these oil and gas chemical projects, they were kind of a PPP projects. It was a partnership in a way between the American companies and the Qatari government, or QP in many cases, or the chemical companies affiliated with QP. And then now we see as well, and this is the other side that I will come to Jay with, to Josh with, is the same thing for the infrastructure, the IT, and so on. So Jay, if I start with you, how do you feel this might impact the American businesses?
I think, you know, if I look at it, it accelerates or becomes more transparent in terms of the ability to engage local partners. But I think what it does is it opens the aperture for those foreign investors to decide a little bit more what they want to do in terms of their appetite for investment, right? I mean, we're very much in a very capital intensive business. And given the sector that we're in, we clearly wanted to be engaged with a strong local partner like Qatar Petroleum for the investments. But I think depending on your organizational structure and your size, this sort of new regulation law gives you the opportunity to kind of assess where you are, what you want to do, and what you want to tackle. So I think it's great. I think it addresses and will allow more different types of investors in the country.
Thank you, Jay. Josh?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're in the same boat. I mean, even as a SaaS platform, or a SaaS platform company, I don't think we're going to move forward without partners on the ground, local partners. So, and there are a ton of great firms out there. And we've had conversations with quite a few. You know, we're going to lean heavily on particularly QBC and IPA as we make these strategic decisions moving forward. And also the embassy, obviously. But, you know, even for me, having lived out in Doha for several years, we need some additional local context that's helpful. So I think there's a ton of opportunity, and I would strongly encourage the partnership model because that's how we're going about it.
Thank you, Josh. One other thing, and I'm gonna try to get to some of the audience questions, but one other thing. So similar to your personal experiences in here, I mean, I remember I went first time to Qatar in 1995, and you can imagine the difference between 1995 and today. But I witnessed Qatar in different phases. So I was there from 95 to almost 99, left, came back, and in 2004, then left and came back in 2008. So every time I went to Qatar, besides getting lost on the roads because they changed so fast, and the bridges and the canals and all of that, which is fascinating, there was also the feel, and this is personal, and I want to ask you how you feel during your time there. The feel that things in a way in 1995, I remember people when I first went to Qatar, there was a lot of reliance on like, take a lot of DVDs with you to Doha. You know, you want to watch more of that because the country was still booming. Where today, if last year I was lost in Doha because of COVID-19 now, I have seen that there's so many things that has opened up. The fun activities, the entertainment, the hotels, the resorts, and so on. From my perspective, and that's what I want to hear from you too, that encourages more of the American investors, specifically Americans, because we're picky in a way. We want a place to have fun and work at the same time. It has encouraged a lot of people to maybe want to live there, maybe bring their family now there. do you feel that this is, you know, helping more to American companies or American investors to consider Qatar as a place the more they do?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I mean, you know, look, we're a tech company. We're full of, you know, very young, very talented engineers. They were asking to relocate from San Francisco, New York, London, Paris. So it is. I think it's of vital importance. But I mean, honestly, my employees that have families in Doha that have signed on for a year-long tour before they would go back to their home office, they've all extended. So I have 3 employees with multiple children, and they don't want to go home. So I think that it has changed drastically. I remember much different in 2005, and you know, even a couple years ago. There's a ton of stuff to do. It's a great place. You know, it's a great place to raise a family. So I think it's a bit of a misunderstanding and a misnomer that needs to be corrected in the U.S. And you know, frankly, with my 22-year-old employees, or the ones we're recruiting in. But yeah, it's been great. I wouldn't have stayed for 4 years if it weren't. So,
Jay?
Yeah, I think Josh says it well. And while I haven't lived in many of those other cities, you know, I've told people that have asked me, I had an assignment in Singapore for a few years before coming to live here in Doha. And I say, living here in terms of the mix, it's completely underrated. You know, the mix of entertainment, adventure, ability to travel. I put it up with all those international cities that Josh mentioned. I think it's just not fully understood and appreciated.
Thank you. I'm going to take a quick question that came earlier to the panel, and it's for Aymen, for IPAQ. So what do you think the role that IPAQ will play? You're part of the ecosystem now in Doha. IPAQ is becoming the umbrella where investors can go to. What do you see the role that you'll play for the recovery after COVID-19 hopefully ends as expected early next year, and beyond that, when it comes to nearing the World Cup 2022, and then after that, the future for Qatar?
And maybe like to your question and to react to Josh and Jay's comments, and to link what they said to your question. Our main role is I think it's first of all like to raise awareness, indeed, of all the available resources in Qatar, and I agree with Josh and Jay's comment that companies and investors and even like people who have not been in Qatar yet may not realize the breadth and wealth of resources that exist. Qatar is ready. You mentioned like the development of the country over the past 15 years, and we built an extraordinary country where that is like plug and play, literally, like for companies. The infrastructure is ready. We have more ambition, so we will like keep developing like more advanced assets and developing like advanced industries. All of this was set, by the way, in the Vision 2030 that was developed back then in 2008. So it's a stable, constant, gradual development towards the knowledge-based economy, and we've done that in a very like constant way. In terms of our role in the post-recovery, I think in the case of Qatar, that so far like we have emerged as a very like quite strongly from the pandemic. Sheikh Ali mentioned the fiscal surplus that is expected for the country. So we speak more about business continuity than recovery. We've been assisting and like very closely the existing base of foreign investors that is operating in Qatar. We've been like supporting them, facilitating any like services to ensure their business continuity. We've been like conducting a number of surveys to see what are their specific needs and support. As you know, the country had developed like an economic stimulus package. So we have been also liaising between the companies and the respective like government authorities. And the IPA, as any like investment promotion agency, we play a very active policy advocacy role. So we mentioned like all the economic reforms that have happened, and we keep participating in shaping on an ongoing basis like more and like ongoing enhancement of the business environment in general. I think that the second part of your question was about the World Cup. So the World Cup is a fantastic, it's the world's largest sport event. That's not a one-off event for Qatar. We have hosted many global sport events in the past, like the handball championship, very recently like the Asian Champions League games, like the world athleticism championship as well last year. And indeed, like we have put like a couple of bids for like some more like major events. So sports is also like a key focus area for Qatar. So obviously the World Cup itself will open up like many opportunities around like the sport industry. It will further participate like to what I mentioned earlier, to the raising awareness of Qatar. So we hope like to develop the tourism like sector like much further. There is this strong push for digitalization. So we plan like to have a fully digital World Cup in Qatar. So we will like adopt like new technologies for that event. So this is a very exciting time for companies really like to come and do business in Qatar.
Well, that's great news for you, Josh. There's a lot of that. I could see him smiling when you said that. He's like, yes, that's what we want. I know we're over time. We're 17 minutes beyond. We don't want to take more of your time. I know there's some questions, but just for the people who submitted some of these questions, we'll respond offline. IPAQ actually were generous to say a lot of these questions we can send out to them and give the answers to you. While I'm going to close, I just wanted to say, having companies like yours, from our perspective as the US-Qatar Business Council, an entity that is started and was founded in the United States. And the reason it was founded, because of the engagements that the American companies wanted to have, but also a unique thing that came across with a different kind of perspective for these entities is the state of Qatar actually wanted a non-government entity to be working with the American investors, with the American companies. Then it was the oil and gas. It was just before 1996, just when the gas started booming and American companies decided to invest in Qatar. And we can see today what this investment have brought a lot of these companies. So that feeling that the government wants to engage, but at the same time wants to give space for American companies, for private investors. I'm saying American because I'm from here, but it's actually applies to many other countries, but I want to focus on the US. We engage with these companies. We feel what Josh and Jay told us today in what was shared by the Ambassador Holtz and Sheikh Ali, but many other ambassadors that actually work in Qatar. We always hear from them that it has been different. And I know their career and their experience is long and they serve many places, but we always hear that for the business, they were committed. You guys mentioned the blockade in 2017. And first thing we heard from American businesses is they saw the commitment that Qatar had in differentiation between doing business and political issues. And that makes us happy when we look at this from here, because we know that this is not going to affect our partners, our members, our engaging associations here in the US. Now, on the final note, as all of you established companies in Qatar, the US-Qatar Business Council in last year as well made the big jump that it was needed for many, many years in establishing an office under the QFC umbrella, working with their CEO and their business development team. And we're lucky to have managing our offices there, Sheikh Al-Thani, and our team there as well, because we felt that American companies in a lot of these developments that Aymen, Sheikh Ali, Ambassador Holtz, and Fahad Al-Dosari mentioned, requires people in the ground, because again, there's always a new development, there's a new law, there's more information that needs to be shared. So having this on the ground, helping American companies like yours becomes easier for us, having people on the ground. So it's always fascinating, it's always interesting. We really appreciate your time. I know we took more than we asked. Josh, good luck with your trip to Doha soon. Jay, thank you so much for your time. And Aymen and everyone that participated today for highlighting everything that Qatar is doing. We're happy to be always answering any questions. If you have as audience questions that you would like to pass, our team will be ready to get these questions, and we'll provide all these answers. Thank you so much. Enjoy your evening in Doha, London, and your morning in DC. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.